Hello and welcome back to the Grounded in Simplicity podcast. This is Bonnie from The Not So Modern Housewife, and I am joined by my good friend Danielle from The Rustic Elk. And we are here to help moms live simply and find joy in being less busy. And this week we are talking about taking chances and getting outside of our comfort zones and all that fun, scary stuff. I mean, I know a lot of, I get it a lot, especially from family of like, why do I try to take on so much and why don't I just do less? And I'm like, it's not who I am.
Well, I think, like as entrepreneurs, we are a little bit, we're wired a little bit differently maybe than like people who don't have that mindset. But I mean, overall, yes, I think, and I think that's partially because we're entrepreneurs that we try to like take on the world instead of just, delegating tasks.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I mean, I don't know, because I see a lot of homesteaders that, they hold themselves back because they're not willing or they're too afraid to like take a leap that would put them in an uncomfortable position. Maybe they don't want to move away from family or away from the area they're living in. Maybe, they're too scared to get started because they don't think they have all the resources that they need. And so, I mean, there's, regardless of what scale you're talking about, when it comes to taking chances, like anything that we try is a chance. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go and get a degree from college and you're taking the chance that you'll actually be able to get a job with that degree, or, that there will be a need for that, for your skill set.
Right.
But I think a lot of times, with homesteading in general, I mean, we are taking on something that is outside of the status quo, outside of the norm, and we're going to get a lot of pushback. It's going to require us to learn skills we've never had to learn before, do things we probably didn't grow up doing. And so, we have to, I mean, really just acknowledge that those are bold actions and that we are capable of doing those things even when it seems scary.
Right. So up first was acknowledging your fears, which I think you just kind of touched on a little bit. Like anything, even if you're not talking about homesteading, but just in general, like we're all scared of something. Like everybody has fears. And then when you talk about homesteading, what if it doesn't work is probably the number one fear that most people that I know have, like what if it doesn't work out? What if I, do this, and this, and I have nothing to show for it? What if my garden doesn't grow, or what if all my animals die, or what if they don't grow fast enough, or, there's all these variables of what if. And so I think, acknowledging that, of course we're scared. You just kind of have to do it scared, and acknowledging that you have those fears is, like definitely a part of the process.
Right. And you can be afraid and still take action.
Right. Like I said, do it scared.
What's that quote? Like, it's not that the brave don't feel fear. It's that they take action in spite of the fear. That's not the quote, but that
must be a Marines thing. I don't know.
It's not a Marines thing. Our quote, or our I don't know what's the word. Our motto is do first, think later. But yeah, good grief. But also going along with acknowledging the fear, like a lot of times we can think it's the fear of failure that is holding us back, when really it could be something even deeper. Like it could be, like for me, more often than not, it really comes down to I'm afraid of like putting myself into a vulnerable position. It's not like those surface level fears that most people would assume, but it is really like going deeper. So a lot of times people will use this tool in finding like your why, but it can kind of go to finding the root of your fears and things like that too. But if you ask yourself why, I think it's 7 times. Have you heard of that before?
Yeah. Yes,
you keep
I have.
asking yourself why, and so it kind of goes a little bit deeper every time, and it doesn't always take 7 times.
Right. I had a coach that did that.
Yeah.
Like you find your like surface level why, and then you ask yourself why again, and then you ask yourself why again, and yeah.
So it can really get to like the root of what you need to work on and figure out, so that you're able to move forward rather than just staying stuck. Because a lot of times it'll be like, well, it's just the money. It's too much money. I can't handle the money. Well, you get the money thing figured out, and then it turns around and ends up being something else. And so like if you go a little bit deeper, then it really helps you kind of get past that and helps you get unstuck a lot better than just focusing on the surface level stuff. All right. Next up, don't let fear drive your decision. I've been doing like these prompted journal entries. And what's interesting is the one for today is talking about kind of living your life on autopilot. And I think this can happen a lot when you're letting fear drive your decisions, because then your fear becomes in charge of your life and not you.
Right.
And so like every action you take ends up being just to keep yourself in your comfort zone, because it's, the unknown is too scary, or taking chances is too scary. And I mean, really, like, I know for me, when I get into those like autopilot types of situations, life goes by too fast. And then all of this time has passed, and it's like, what, I haven't accomplished nearly what I had set out to accomplish, because I got scared, I got overwhelmed, whatever, and I just tuned out.
Right.
I stayed busy. I didn't focus on the things that were important, that would actually, achieve my goals. And what the heck? It's 2 years later, and I'm still in the same place that I was.
Right.
But yeah. All right.
So we're going to move on to the next one. And I'm going to pretend that my water is wine. I don't even know where it went. Okay.
I mean, I'm on my third cup of coffee for today. So
you're supposed to meet your water goal so I can drink a glass of wine.
Yes, I'm sorry that I have failed you.
Okay. Oh yeah, tackling your biggest fears. So I think doing the whole like stepping back and figuring out, like your different levels of fear, like we were talking about your levels of why or whatever, and asking yourself why 7 times. I think that this can help find what your biggest fear actually is, because it's not necessarily that surface level, like I'm afraid that I won't have enough money, or, whatever it may be. So I think, like sitting down and really writing out and trying to, like do a little bit of mental work and self-reflection to figure out what you're really, really afraid of, so that you can find a way to tackle that fear so that you can move forward.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, we're sitting down and we're looking at our fears and what's holding us back. It's important to remember that, like, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week with your inner critic, is acknowledging that all of these things that you're saying to yourself is the fear talking.
Right.
And it's like you're trying to predict the future, and you have no idea what's going to happen. You have just as much chance of succeeding as you do of failing. And so, but if you focus on that success and what you could actually achieve if you're successful and what that'll feel like, you're much more likely to achieve that. Because if all you're doing is focusing on, well, what happens if I don't succeed, then it's just going to be a race to the bottom. It's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So Mark Twain would say that it's best to eat a frog in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of goes along with like the tackling the biggest fears, is if you're laying out your goals and you have that thing that like feels really big and really overwhelming, obviously you're going to take that thing and you're going to break it down into smaller chunks and like actionable tasks so that you can actually work towards it. But that thing that scares you and makes you nervous and has like butterflies in the pit of your stomach, do that thing the first thing in the morning, because one, you're going to be more likely to put it off the further you get into the day. But then also you're going to feel so accomplished doing that one thing that it's going to kind of propel you for the rest of the day and set the tone for the rest of the day. Because everything else after that is gravy.
So what if we're talking about, like, not necessarily something that we're going to do for the day, but like, okay, so we're talking about tackling your biggest fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that we should tackle it first, just like eating the frog in the morning. But what about, it's not necessarily a task or a fear. It's not necessarily a task that you're going to do every day or a fear, but like, let's say something that you just really, really don't want to do. Like, it might be because you're scared, but it's not something you're going to have to do repetitively. Like creating a garden space. It's not something you're going to have to do more than one time. Like building a building. We'll say we really, really don't want to. We know we need to. So should we do that first?
It depends on where you are in the process, though. Like, are you at the I'm saving up because price of lumber is atrocious, or I have to actually go and put poles in the ground and like set trusses? Regardless, it's like a it's Nike. You gotta just do it. So if it's a savings goal, yeah, I know. If it's a savings goal, then that money that you have decided you are going to set aside is going to come off the top every paycheck. Granted, as long as you have enough money to pay your necessities. But that may mean that you're not ordering pizza for the next couple of months. You know, like things like you're going to cut out all of those things that you want, but you're going to do it by taking that savings goal off the top so that money's no longer available. If it is, you've got to go build something, and the only time you've got to do it is on the weekend, then as soon as you wake up Saturday morning, you're going to get up and you're going to start working on it, and you're going to get as much done as possible, at least through Saturday. If you want to work through Sunday, that's between you and God. And then you just do that every weekend till it's done. Okay. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like my family. I said for Mother's Day, I wanted a clean kitchen and trellis arches. And my husband decided to go reorganize the shed. So guess who still doesn't have a clean kitchen or trellis arches?
So my birthday falls on Father's Day this year, since we're getting off topic anyway.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. So
is this part of where your brain space is right now?
No. Oh. But it is now. So Trevor asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And we need, not that I want one, we need a new weed eater.
Okay.
And I do most of the yard work because he's gone, despite the fact that I can't walk. Anyway.
Right.
So we have this like really crummy weed eater. It's like a little battery operated Black & Decker because I can't use the gas powered ones. They're too heavy.
Right.
And so we talked about getting a new one last year. We didn't. So I've been making this one work. I have to use like 5 batteries and I don't even really have that much. I have to weed eat. So I told him that we need a new weed eater. So he's decided he's going to buy himself a weed eater for Father's Day so I can use it, because that's not a good birthday gift.
Well, okay. I can't really argue with him there.
No, I don't argue with him, but he's going to go buy it so I can use it.
Right. And he'll get you something else for your birthday?
No.
No. Okay.
Not likely. My whole point in telling him, because I said Father's Day was on my birthday, and he was like, right. Well, that's, so he said he would buy it for himself. My whole point in it was that they should be on sale because Father's Day.
Well, that's true. Did I ever tell you that Matt and I's first Christmas together, his gift to me was a stepladder and a clap-on, like a clapper, you know, for the light?
That's like 90s.
Yeah, this was not the 90s. Well, it was, I guess it would have been 2006.
So you guys haven't been together as long as Trevor and I.
Maybe 2005. I'm thinking. We met, yeah, I guess it would have been Christmas 2005. Because we met February 2005, dated for a couple months. I deployed for 5-ish months, and then officially moved to Florida and then we started dating again.
Oh.
So, and we got married in 2008.
See, we met in July of 2004 and got married in December of 2004.
Oh, jeez. So you have a long history of insanity.
Yes. Yes.
Still, I mean, it's not that much. It's only another year, but I was still finishing up college in Ohio in 2004 because I took the 6-year bachelor plan.
Hey, whatever
What
works.
happens when you change majors and schools 3 times?
I changed schools twice.
Yeah.
And majors once.
I pretty much changed majors every time I changed schools. Well, I can't really say that. I was business at Columbus State and then business at Ohio Dominican. But I decided to add math when I got to Ohio Dominican.
Math?
There was some weird part of me that missed math.
Did you go to college and not have to take math?
No. I added math as a major.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would want to major in math, but whatever.
I also have a long history of insanity.
Well, see, there you go. See, I was
nerd.
I was biology with pre-med, and then I switched to photography. So,
Well, I started out. How on earth are we getting on this topic?
I don't know.
But when I was at Anderson, I was computer science and math because that would give me the math classes I needed for vet school if I decide to apply to vet school. What did you hit your foot?
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up deciding not to do vet school. And I really did not have the patience for computer programming.
Purdue's a
good
vet school.
Look at me now. I'm doing computer programming. Yeah, but it was like, it was an out-of-state school for me, so I would have been paying out the nose. I mean, I was paying out the nose for Anderson, but at least it was a smallish school. It was smaller than Purdue.
Well, but you could have gotten grants to pay for the out-of-state tuition fees.
I know, but I like small classes. I don't like big schools.
I didn't either.
I don't like people.
I don't either. And my newspaper advisor when I was in high school wanted me to go to Franklin College, which is in Franklin, which is really, really tiny. Franklin, Indiana.
Yeah.
So that I could major in some kind of writing. And I laughed at him.
You said you'd never be a writer?
I said never be a writer because there was no money in it.
Right.
And then, see, I went all the way to Colorado to go to school. And then I transferred back to Purdue.
Okay.
So
there was like no way on planet Earth that I was going to the Ohio State University. So I was trying to go anywhere but.
I applied to all these huge schools and I don't know why, because I've never liked people.
Yeah. So growing up in the 4-H program in Central Ohio, we had a lot of activities that we would attend at Ohio State. And one of the first things they would always do is they would take all of these high schoolers and lock them in an auditorium and tell them how not to get raped on campus.
Oh.
So it didn't really make me want to go to school there.
I can see where you wouldn't be real. Wow.
I mean, really, I was looking to get out of Ohio. So like there was a school I was looking at in upstate New York. There was a school I was looking at in Georgia. And the only school that my parents would actually go on a visit with me to was Indiana because it was only 3 hours away. So that's how I ended up in Anderson, because it was the only school my parents would actually visit and it was still out of state. So, and then after a year there, I ended up back in my parents' house and going to Columbus State for the next 2 years. But
see, I went to Colorado sight unseen, but I visited USC in California.
That's a little bit of a distance.
I wanted to get out of Indiana, like as far as humanly possible out of Indiana.
That's as far as you can get from Indiana and still be in the U.S.
Yes.
But
well, I could have went to Alaska.
Well, that's true. Then you would have had to have lived in California.
Yeah, and that no.
Yeah. Not
I
that
got in though.
not that Colorado is exactly a red state either, but
No.
No. Okay, so moving on.
We're going to talk about abundance mindset again because we love talking about the abundance mindset.
Well, and again, I see it go back to a lot of things. We see a lot of people in the homesteading space that have one, a scarcity mindset, and also a fear-based mindset. One of the reasons why I really don't like the prepper community is it's all fear-based.
Yeah,
I know. I'm sorry, folks. I am the first one to tell you to be prepared to an extent.
I think there's a difference between being prepared and hoarding.
Well, there's that.
And I
But
think,
also,
like preparation can be gaining skills so that you can continue to be prepared in the event that something does happen.
right.
Versus,
Well, and it's
like
like,
having.
It's running around constantly saying the sky is falling isn't actually helping anybody. You can believe that the sky might fall someday and be prepared for it. But if you're doing it because you're so scared of the sky falling, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And I think
Don't
that's
turn on the
going
news
to hold you back. Well, obviously.
because the sky is falling. If not today, then tomorrow.
Well, they change the reason for the sky falling like on a daily basis.
I think we're like down to at least twice daily now.
Because fear sells news, which is part of the reason why they drive me nuts. Because, again, like, negativity begets more negativity. If you are always focused on the negative, you are training your brain to only ever see the negative. Right. And we see that in our society, like, every single day. Every time I log into social media, I see the result of people only focusing on the negative.
Well, and thinking that, their opinion is the only opinion, and anybody that has a differing opinion is...
Well, there's also that. But no, like, yeah, focusing on what you can do for others, what you can do for yourself, and not just on what you don't have or what bad things might happen.
I mean, we need to do a whole episode on abundance mindset.
Well, yeah, I'm sure we could probably do a whole season on abundance mindset. But I mean, I'm pretty sure there are entire podcasts dedicated to the abundance mindset.
Oh, I'm sure.
So kind of going back to the whole fear-based thing is one thing that drives me nuts as a Christian is seeing other Christians that are like, everyone should hide and tuck their tail between their legs or whatever. Everyone should stick their heads in the sand because everybody's out to get us. And it's like, so are you saying that you don't have faith in God to keep his divine hand over all of this and use all things for good? And, I'm like, I'm not saying he's always going to keep us from harm because, I mean, the Bible shows us example after example that if you follow God, you are going to have struggles and you're going to have hardships. And there's a very good chance you're going to end up, burned at the stake at some point. But it never stopped those people from preaching and following God and doing what was right.
Right.
And instead, it's like we want to hide from the world and completely segregate ourselves from everything and everyone because the world is out to get us. And it's, it's all going to hell. It's like, I mean, it might be, but
it's probably pretty factual, actually.
I mean, but I still have faith that God's in control.
Right, exactly. There's a difference between, watching it all go down the drain and knowing that God is in control of the final outcome versus watching it all go down the drain.
Right. And like somehow, like, I don't know, somehow I'm going to cause my own destruction because
What is that? It's in John. Is it John 10:10? That we're promised an abundant life. A thief comes only to steal and slaughter and destroy. I came so that they might have life and have it more abundantly.
Oh, yes,
So
that's
there you
right.
go.
But if you have a scarcity mindset, then you are thinking, like, basically, what I have is all I'm ever going to have. This is my lot in life. I can never accomplish any more than this. I can never be any smarter than this, have any more than this.
Right.
With an abundance mindset, your possibilities are endless. You just, if you're lacking the knowledge, then you just have to gain the knowledge. If you're lacking the tools or resources, then you gain the resources and the tools. And it's not saying that just thinking these things are magically going to make it happen. What it really is you put yourself into that mindset so that you keep taking the action, you keep moving forward, and the more you keep working at it, then the more you can accomplish over time. So, like we were talking about last time, where the people who are usually attributed with being super smart or being super talented is just because they put in the time and the work.
Right. Well, and when you're talking about not necessarily individually, but just as a whole. So a scarcity mindset is going to have you thinking that there are only so many slices of a pie.
Right.
Where an abundance mindset is going to have you thinking that there are tons of pies. Like there's an unlimited amount of slices of the same pie or whatever it may be. So I think, and I really am, I'm one of those people that think that mindset is really, really important. Like we've mentioned, like you just mentioned a little bit ago about how, negativity begets negativity, but positivity also begets positivity. And so if we are constantly looking at things from that scarcity mindset and that negative, because scarcity is kind of a negative way of looking at things, then that's going to be the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at it from an abundance mindset in a positive way, I think that is more likely to be the outcome. It may not turn out exactly like you thought it would, because God has a really twisted sense of humor. But
his plans are not necessarily your plans.
No, they're usually not. But I think when we look at things positively and we try to have a positive outlook on things and look at things from an abundance perspective, I think things are more likely to turn out closer to the way that we really want them to in the back of our minds, versus if we're constantly looking at things as, there's only 8 slices of this pie. There's, infinity slices of that pie.
And, like if you think about it, so we're getting this message pounded into our heads that, there are limited resources on this planet, and there's only so much land, and there's only so much money, and there's only so much space. And it's like, okay, yes, but it is like there is so much more out there than we can even fathom. Like, yeah, there's a limited amount, but that doesn't mean that there's not enough to go around. And honestly, just look at our government. Obviously, there is an unlimited amount of money because they can just print more whenever. Shouldn't have gone there. But really, like I see it a lot in the business world. People will get so hung up on someone else having success, another business making more money, another business having more success. And it's like, but there are so many other customers out there for you. Like, why be excited for them, be proud of them for their success, because their people aren't necessarily your people. Your people aren't necessarily their people.
I love that you started talking about that, because that drives me crazy. Like when somebody's like, I can't do this because somebody else already did this, or they did this and they stole my idea, so now I can't do this, or whatever it is. And they didn't really steal the idea, because there are no new ideas. It's like McDonald's. I hate McDonald's, but we're going to use it because. So if McDonald's exists, so there's already a burger joint, so we don't need a Wendy's or a Burger King or any other fast food restaurant at all, really. Or, the diner across the road, we don't need another diner down the road because there's already a diner. I mean, it's the same idea. There's enough room and there are enough people that you can serve, and still earn, or whatever it may be, whatever your goal is.
Well, and okay, so if we're using the restaurant example, most of the time, if those restaurants go under, it is not because there weren't enough customers available. Either they didn't put themselves out there, they didn't provide the customer service, they didn't provide the product. Like, there's usually something else. And a lot of that may come back to, well, there aren't enough customers, so why should we bother? Or like, only putting out half the effort or like a portion of the effort because, well, there's too much competition anyway. No one's going to want to come here. But yet, I mean, like, talking about diners, I live in the South. We have a diner on every corner, and that's not even including the chain restaurants. And yet, this guy that I know, well, first he owned the hot dog joint next door. His mom owns a restaurant literally across the street. Him and his brother decide to sell the hot dog stand, open this diner next door to the hot dog stand. And on the weekends, it is no less than a 2-hour wait to get in there.
Right.
And it's basically the same food. I mean, they put a little bit of a twist on it.
But I bet they also looked at things from an abundant mindset, and they weren't looking at things from, you know what I mean? Because if you're looking at it from that negative, there's not going to be enough. Exactly.
Right. They're never afraid to try new things either.
Right.
And his business just continues to grow and grow and grow. I mean, it's gotten to the point where he has the merchandise side of the business, not even talking about the restaurant, because now he's selling merchandise with the restaurant logo on it. He's had to keep buying more shops up the street just like to sell all of the merchandise. Then he opened a tap room, and the tap room is selling pizza now. He ended up buying the property behind him and put in a stage, and now they're hosting concerts. Like, it's
right. And it's not because they're meant to be successful and somebody else isn't. It's just that they're taking chances and they're looking at things from a abundant mindset. I can guarantee
exactly.
Because if you're looking at things negatively, then you're never going to move.
He didn't go into it saying, we're just a little mom and pop diner in Brooksville, Florida. That is, no, he's like, I mean, I don't know shoot, I should like get him in here for an interview. But it's just, it was one of those things where it was almost like he went into it like, let's just see how far we can take this.
Right.
And I mean, and they're franchising, and they're just,
right. And you think about that too. I was talking to somebody, it was a while back. I think it was one of my coaches. Anyway, and we're talking about how you don't call yourself a small business. Don't ever call yourself small. So whether you're talking about business or your homestead or whatever it is, and let's say that you do have a quote unquote small homestead and you want to try to scale it so that you can make money at a farmer's market. Mm-hmm. So you have a little bit of profit, or you're helping pay the feed bills or whatever it is. If you call yourself small, then you're going to stay small. So you don't call it that. You just, I'm a business, or I'm a homestead,
right?
Instead of calling it small, because that's limited, and it's kind of like a scarcity type of outlook on things. So you have to, instead of calling it small, I'm a business, or I'm a homestead,
right? Well, there's a guy that next county over that I think he's only like on a 1/4 acre lot. He's growing everything in his front yard, selling at market. I mean, almost making a full-time income from it. I can't remember. I saw a video where he talked about how much he's making, and I can't remember how much it was. But people in the comments are like, there's no way he's making that much money off of his front yard. Yeah, he really is. I mean, granted, he's focusing on lettuces and greens, stuff that like grows really fast that he can have a high turnover with. Right. And as soon as one is done, he's planting another one in its place.
And the problem with their mindset is their mindset, because there's no way. Well, nothing's impossible with the right outlook.
Yeah. I mean, even our state, like, so you can get a reduction on your property tax if you are green belted, which basically saying you are a bona fide agricultural business and you are making, agricultural income from your land. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, the counties were like, there's no way you're a bona fide agricultural business on less than 10 acres. So if you were less than 10 acres, they would just flat refuse you. Right. And I mean, and there's plenty of people making more than that on an acre.
Or sometimes less.
Well, right. And it's all about, it's all about how you're using it and how, and what you're growing and everything. Right. So the state actually had to come out and say there's no longer any minimum acreage requirements, but you still have to prove you're a bona fide agricultural business. But at least that it's still, there's still people within the county that want to drag their feet and want to refuse to acknowledge. But if you can provide a business plan and show documentation on your taxes and stuff that you've been making that money, they have to approve you for that exemption.
This episode was brought to you by Kitchen Botanicals, your sustainable gardening headquarters. Stop by kitchenbotanicals.com and get a look at our 2022 seed varieties, as well as supplies and pest control products to help you with your organic garden. 2022 is a great time to take care of yourself with our Pampered Gardener subscription box. Every month, you'll receive all-natural self-care products, untreated heirloom seeds, high-quality garden tools, organic garden amendments, cute and practical supplies, and fun products that we know you'll love. This is your opportunity to take care of yourself in the garden. I started the Pampered Gardener subscription box because I had gone through a time of not taking care of myself and dealing with the stress that it put onto my body. I was ill, I was tapped out, and I felt like I couldn't possibly pour any more out of my empty cup. So I created the Pampered Gardener subscription box for women like me who wanted to get back to what they enjoy, but also wanted to love themselves. So we've put together this collection of gardening and self-care products that are geared towards women who love to garden. You'll get things such as gloves, lotion, bags, hats, sunscreen, mosquito repellent, things that you can actually use, but also things that you'll enjoy. And don't worry, there will still be plenty of gardening tools, seeds. We've created a subscription box like no other, by gardeners for gardeners. Order your own box today.
So, all right, next up. Write down what will happen if you stay stuck. Now, don't let this become a self-fulfilling prophecy, though.
No, there's another step.
Okay. But yes, it does help to see, okay, here's what I will feel. For me, if nothing else, it's looking at my life and going, you know what? This isn't the life I want to lead, and this isn't how I want to continue to feel. And the only way that's going to change is if I take action and make changes.
Right. But if you write down, or at least think about, okay, if I stay at this plateau wherever I am in life and I don't ever take a chance on anything ever again, or, if I don't take this particular opportunity instead of calling it a chance, then what's going to happen? If I don't take the opportunity to X, Y, or Z, I'm going to be exactly where I am this time next year.
And it can be motivating. All right, what's up next? Since you said this is 2 steps or multiple steps.
So what would you do if you weren't afraid? So you can write that on the same piece of paper. So if you actually, took the opportunity, write down, because it's going to be the opposite of what's going to happen if you stay where you're at, right? So what are the possibilities? Now, is it necessarily going to come to fruition? Not necessarily. But if you write down, so the opposite, so if I stay stuck and I don't, try to grow food for market, we'll use that as an example. If I don't expand my garden and try to grow food for market, then I'm going to be exactly where I was this time next year. And then if I did go ahead and take that chance to grow food for market, what are the possibilities? If I went ahead and just went for it and I wasn't afraid, where could I possibly be at this time next year?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Those were my steps. You're going to say nothing to this.
No, I agree with you. No, I was just thinking and that does go back to, writing down your fears and actually getting down to what is it that you're really afraid of when it all comes down to it.
Right.
But no, I also, for whatever reason, started thinking that if you're worried about, well, what if, because I've seen this happen a lot of times too. People get so afraid of, well, what happens if I'm successful? And then that feels too scary because then they don't know if they can keep up with it. But if you like, say you only have an acre for your garden, and okay, what if I am wildly successful at the market and my acre is not enough to keep up with it? There are always other opportunities. You can lease land, or you can partner with someone else. And like, I've run into a lot of people that want to be able to grow, like they have the land available. They want to be able to grow food on their property. Like they want to have a big garden and everything, but they're not able to do it themselves because of age or their work schedule or whatever. So you could work out something with them that maybe you use their acreage and they get a portion of the vegetables or something like that.
Right.
And you get to a certain size, you can hire people to help you. It doesn't always have to be you. So there's always more opportunities the more you grow. But if you stay small, then that's when you end up being very limited. It's actually a lot easier to be big than it is to be small.
But
don't start big.
Start small.
It's also a really good way to get overwhelmed.
Yes. So, like, okay, you want to grow for the market, but that doesn't mean that you have to grow that whole acre your first year either. Like, you could start with just a little bitty farm stand and grow some of your excess produce on a half an acre or a quarter of an acre. And then, as you're able and you see, that there's a market for it, and then you can, scale up. You can also scale down, I guess, but it's a lot easier to scale up than it is to scale back.
Well, and it's a lot easier to pivot when you're small.
Right.
Because if you figure out that either the market that you're going to isn't going to be a good fit, or the product that you're selling isn't, there's not a high demand for it. But also, like, starting small can mean you're only focusing on like one or two vegetables. Like I said, there's the guy that he pretty much is just selling lettuce. There's one lady, now granted, she's starting to offer more stuff now, but for the longest time, I would go to the market and the only thing she had were tomatoes. But those were the best tasting tomatoes in the entire market. She was the only person I would buy tomatoes from. So if you just have like one thing that either you can grow really well, or say it's like a green that can grow really fast and harvest, and so you can have a high turnover with it, which works really, really well if you have a small space, then just focus on that. And you can make a decent income selling just that. This is one that I've come to know very, very well. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Growth is painful. Growth is scary.
It's scary, yes.
And it will literally bring you to tears more often than not. But, like, that is literally the only way to grow. Like, if you want more than what you currently have, you're going to have to be uncomfortable for a period of time. And the bigger those goals,
have to be uncomfortable again and again.
Well, yeah,
and again and again, because if you're ever comfortable, you're not growing.
Yeah,
you're just.
But yeah, like the bigger your goals, the longer your discomfort.
Right, but you can also break those goals down into smaller goals so that your discomfort is more manageable.
Yes,
but we all have to get out of our comfort zones. If we stay in our comfort zones, then we're not growing. You can't grow, sitting on the couch.
Right. Well, and like the way I look at it is like I literally have to become a different person from who I was. Just like, just like with anything. If you want a new skill, you have to learn that new skill.
Right.
And sometimes that new skill is learning to be uncomfortable or learning to make hard decisions. So it's, I guess, kind of, be open-minded to what lessons the discomfort is trying to teach you.
Right. Instead of looking at it as challenges, look at it as opportunities and lessons that you can learn.
Right. Journaling helps me because then I have notes I can go back to so I can kind of like remind myself of the lessons.
Right.
Or maybe there's stuff that I will write down that I won't really see the lesson until I go back and reread it again a couple days later.
Right.
So, all right. Next up.
Ditch perfectionism. Yes. So,
and I see this hold people back a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think, between fear and perfectionism and thinking that everything has to be just so, I think, that's what keeps most people from trying to take an opportunity and move forward with something. But, I think if we don't take risks in our lives, then we're not really living. Like, I'm one of those people that thinks that, you have to take risks, and you can't necessarily look at it as a risk. You have to look at it as an opportunity. And if you are trying to make something perfect, then you're not going to take the risk.
Right.
Because you're going to let that hold you back and keep you stuck in the same position that you're currently in, because you're number one, there's no such thing as perfect. And we've talked about this before, but you're never going to see it perfect. You're never going to see it come to fruition in that perfect mind's eye that you have. So you have to kind of just let go of it and, take imperfect action.
Kind of takes me back to like high school when I was doing all of these like classes and things for the college entrance exams. So like taking all these test prep classes, and they would teach you strategies for, like, say, multiple choice questions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they would always tell us is do not second guess your answers.
Right.
Because more often than not, you actually had the right answer the first time. But then you go and you second guess yourself and you overthink it, and then you go and change it, and you actually change it to a wrong answer.
Yep.
So like we can get hung up on something's not perfect, but in reality, we would have, like, people would have related to it better if we would have just taken the initial action. Like if we would have put it up imperfectly, it probably would have performed better, done better. People would have liked it better than if we sat there and just kept tweaking it and tweaking it. So yeah, just put it out there. And even if there's something wrong with it, or whatever it is that you're doing, you can always fix it after the fact.
Right. And it still will not be perfect.
Well, it'll never be perfect. There's nothing on this planet that is perfect. I mean, people will tell it, like, trust me, the naysayers will love to tell you all the things that they think are not perfect. But what's perfect in their eyes is also not perfect in the next person's eyes. So
exactly.
Embrace the suck. Sorry, that is not what it says. It says embrace failure. Personally, I like embrace the suck. The failure's gonna happen.
Yeah. And don't think of it as a failure. I think is part of the trick to getting past them. I think, instead of thinking,
a learning opportunity.
Yes, exactly. It is a learning opportunity. We all fail, but we can learn from those mistakes and grow because we made the mistake, and we can't grow if we didn't make the mistake a lot of times. So I think, looking at it from a different viewpoint and knowing that we all make mistakes, we all have failures. That doesn't necessarily, failure's not permanent.
Right. And again, you can't grow without failure.
Right.
But I'm full of quotes today that I'm continually butchering. But I think Thomas Edison said, like, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I learned 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It's something like that.
I know that. Yeah, I know that one.
Hey, see?
Oh.
But yeah. Hey, this goes back to what I said about ditching perfectionism.
Right, yeah. But I think, people are often concerned about what other people think of them. Because we live in this society where, there's, I don't know.
Everyone has an opinion, and they think that
their opinion's the only one that matters.
Well, right, and that you're entitled to hear it. And I mean, yeah, I've blocked family members because they had that mentality. And I think it's just, you really have to examine, is it someone whose opinion should even matter? Like, is this someone that I even care to impress?
Like, I mean, literally no one's opinion matters except your own and God's.
Well,
Nobody.
Okay, there's that. I mean, there's a small part of me that cares what my husband thinks,
Well, yeah, I mean, but
so like, okay, I will say, all right. So like, for instance, I do like I like to bounce ideas off of you because your opinion does matter to me. Now, ultimately, I may still decide to do it anyway because, you know, I'm a stubborn SOB that just does my own thing. But I still value your opinion and want to hear your feedback.
Well, that's different though than saying, you know, like
I don't think you should let fear of someone's opinion hold you back from doing the thing. Like I've had
but asking for feedback and an opinion, and then you still get to decide.
Well, and, right. Yeah.
Okay, if I tell you shouldn't do something and you go ahead and do it anyway, that doesn't mean that I'm going to think less of you or differently. You know what I mean? I mean, it's
right.
There's a big difference between asking for.
I mean, there are people that would be that way, but again, you have to question
well, those are not your
why
people.
their opinion matters. And like I've had people that have given me feedback, and then at the end of the day, I have to go, but they're really not like my target market. They're not the person I am trying to engage with, you know, with X, Y, and Z, whatever it is that I'm trying to do.
Right.
Now, there are things that they have suggested that I was like, you know what, that's valid, and I will try to incorporate that.
Right.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I make my own decisions.
Right. And it doesn't matter if the guy across the street thinks that you're crazy for growing lettuce in your front yard. It's really none of his concern. And if you live in an HOA, I feel very, very sorry for you.
Yes.
So there is that. But
yes.
I guess if you don't like
matter. HOAs, don't move to Florida because it's really hard to find a house down here that's not in an HOA. Thankfully, I live in one of them, but I live in a house that doesn't have an HOA. That's what I need to. Yeah. Anyway,
I think that they're becoming very, very common, and then not that you have to worry about what other people think, but then it matters what other people think because
they will literally fine you if you don't go along with the sheep.
Yeah, which is so dumb.
I know. I never understood why someone would buy a house where someone else gets to decide the color of your mailbox, but whatever.
Or, that you can't have a blueberry bush in your front yard or.
Right.
Like.
I know it's like it's actually a little bit ironic. Here we go. Sidebarring again. People will say they want to live in an HOA because it protects property values. But then I also hear the same argument that people can only find like affordable housing in HOAs. Like homes that are on a lot outside of an HOA are too expensive. So the only way they can find a home in their budget is to live in an HOA. I'm like, so are those houses worth more money or not? I mean, I know.
Well, I think the whole argument is supposed to protect your property value because they can't do X, Y, or Z. But I don't think my property value is going to depreciate because I have a clothesline in my backyard. Like,
well, right, I know. Yeah, I know.
I think they're just nitpickers.
Right. Well, and again, like it kind of goes back to like a scarcity mindset and just like a fear-based mindset is like they're so afraid that a tree is going to attract rats. And it's not based on like anything factual. It's just that's their assumption that if it's producing fruit, the rats are going to come eat the fruit and therefore it's going to attract rats. Or like if someone has a clothesline behind their privacy fence so that you can't see anything in their backyard anyway, I might get a glimpse of their underwear. I don't know. Like it's just I don't know. I don't understand the mentality. I mean, I realize there are people that they want everyone's yards to look the same, and then they get mad when everyone's yards don't look the same.
So right, I think we're on to our last talking point. Have a fallback.
Yes.
First off, realize that nothing is permanent. I wanted to put that out there. So, just because, let's say you are going to leave your job and become a market gardener. Well, have a fallback. And the fallback means that, so money might be an issue. make sure that you have enough saved back so that, you can fall back on that if you need to. And also realize that just because you left your job to become a market gardener doesn't mean that you can't go back to a job.
Right. Well, and two, I mean, a lot of times people will like stay with the full-time job while they do the side gig, and kind of build up like a parachute so that when they do take that leap and go full-time, then, they have something to fall back on. But also, just having like a backup plan to pivot to. I was listening to one of Donald Miller's books from StoryBrand, and he was talking about like if they have a new product that they're launching, they will actually put the website out there first with a sign up to get on the wait list and sell and they'll only sell it to their email list first, or maybe like a segment of their email list, see how much interest is in it, get all the signups before they even have the product, sell the product, take any money, anything like that. And just to determine if there's interest before they even like try to sell the product.
Right.
So there's a lot of research, like whatever you want to go into, there's a lot of research that you can do ahead of time. And even how we've talked about, if you are not in a position yet to be able to homestead or produce your own food or whatever it is, just like starting that education piece and learning the skills. And a lot of times you can decide if something is going to be for you just from learning the skills and decide that, okay, you know what, I really don't want to do this full time, or this is just not something that I find enjoyable.
I don't think you can do that with homesteading.
What do you mean?
Because learning the skills versus actually living the life are two very, very different
Well, things. Right. I'm not saying you're going to work out all the kinks 100%, but you can still okay, for instance, people that try pressure cooking or try pressure canning one time and then decide that pressure canners are scary and they never want to pressure can again.
Most people won't even try one time, so there is that. But I mean, yeah, I get that.
Figure that out before you go and buy a $400 canner.
Make it work. You want food? Make it work. That's why I'm totally off topic again. I'm thinking about getting a freeze dryer.
Those things are big. Where are you going to put it? Sometimes it helps to think things through before you.
They've got one at one of the local stores, actually, a Harvest Direct freeze dryer, and they're not real big. It's like slightly larger than my dehydrator.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad.
And it's like a medium size.
Because the ones I've seen have been like the size of an oven. At least have an idea, like depending on if they find chickens scary. Although I'm sure they would figure that out before they ever tried to raise a chicken. But I still think that you can eliminate some things by trying them and deciding if you like them or not. You could try freeze-dried food and decide you don't want to ever freeze-dry your own food.
I think, if push came to shove and I really needed some food, then I would eat freeze-dried food regardless whether I liked it or not. So.
I mean, that's why I have a giant cabinet full of freeze-dried food, but I bought it. I didn't buy a freeze dryer. I mean, or you could be like me and try all of the things growing up and decide you're never going to have chickens. You're never going to have goats. You're never going to have pigs. You're never going to have ducks. And then become an adult and have all of them.
Because God has a twisted sense of humor.
Yeah, pretty much. But, I got my business degree because I was tired of being dirty for a living. I should have my original, somewhere there's a picture of me standing next to my, the classroom door in kindergarten. And it has all of the stuff that I like. And one of the things was what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said farmer. So apparently at 6 years old, I knew what I was going to be. It just took me the next 20 years to figure that out.
Well, I think, I think as far as homesteading or really anything goes, I think it's something you're either called to or you're not.
Yeah.
And you're going to find a way to work it out if you feel called to it. But This is
Yeah,
not where
I
I
think-
envision my life.
Well, right. I think more often than not, homesteaders have more of a problem of trying to tackle too much. And and I don't know, maybe it's because they like held themselves back for so long that when they finally take that action and like get the property and start doing the things, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've wanted all of these things for so long. Now I have to have all of them all at once.
I think that's part of it. And I think another part of it is they're trying to keep up with everybody else.
Yeah.
And or it's a whole fear thing.
Yeah,
and they feel compelled
maybe I'm
to because
not
they're afraid.
a real homesteader if I don't have X, Y, and
Right,
Z.
right.
I mean, my kids keep telling me that we're not a real farm because we don't have sheep and donkeys. I don't know why sheep and donkeys somehow magically qualify us as a farm. Oh, we need a cow.
Oh, you definitely need a cow.
Yeah. Not that my kids will ever let me butcher a cow, so it's going to have to be a dairy cow. Or
And
I
then
get
you'll
a
never milk
steer
it.
yeah, obviously. I mean, we have chickens that we don't collect eggs from, so why would we milk a cow?
Well, you should probably get a steer, though, because apparently you just realized there's a beef shortage.
I don't need to own a steer when I know other people who own steers. In fact, a friend of mine just posted, she was complaining about hay prices. And she was saying they're getting ready to bring in a few steer that they're going to finish. And I was like, I'm working on clearing out room in my freezer, and I'm going to need some beef to fill it with. Wink, wink. So, but I did find my beef. And it didn't cost both of my kidneys. So that's a plus.
Just one?
Just one of them.
Maybe a lobe of your liver.
At least that'll grow back if I don't drink a bunch of wine to get over these food prices and gas prices. But yeah. All right. That's it for today, folks.
Take risks.
Take risks.
They're opportunities.
Exactly.
Start small.
They feel scary. They need to. Scary is good for you.
Yep.
It's like riding a roller coaster. You go up that first hill, all that suspense built up. It feels really scary. But then you get the thrill of going down that first hill, put your arms up in the air, and then it becomes exciting. And then you throw up. So, on that note, I guess we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Grounded in Simplicity podcast. If we were able to help you in any way, please share this episode with a friend and also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also join us over on Patreon at Grounded in Simplicity and help to support this podcast, as well as become a patron and get a behind the scenes look at the creation of our podcast and even have some input on future episodes.